Action movies have been a part of cinematic history for a long time. In fact, it goes all the way back to the silent film days of Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton. But the 1970s saw a large number of action movies that hit the silver screen. These movies had a whole lot more action and were also more brutal than those that had been released before the 1970s. But to be fair, some were better than others. In this video, we will take a step back into the past and revisit the 1970s top action movies. These, of course, will be in no particular order. The Warriors is a 1979 action thriller film in which a New York street gang must escape the Bronx and get back to their home turf on Coney Island after being framed for the murder of a respected gang leader. This movie is action-packed for about an hour and a half, and this gang of warriors battles the police as well as rival gangs. This movie became a cult classic and is still loved by many people today. Assault on Precinct 13 was a 1976 action thriller movie that was quite different than other movies. It begins with some LAPD officers who killed 6 members of the Street Thunder gang. The warlords swore an oath of revenge against the police and its citizens of Los Angeles. The war began when the gang attacked Precinct 13, which was scheduled to close soon. This attack led Lieutenant Ethan Bishop to form an unlikely alliance with a group of prisoners in order to defend the station and the lives of everyone in it. The movie was remade in 2005, and despite having bigger actors in it, it sorta got mixed reviews. It is certainly proof that it is tough to beat the original film. The Towering Inferno is a classic disaster movie that came out in 1974 and starred numerous actors that you might know, such as Paul Newman, Steve McQueen, and Faye Dunaway, just to name a few. And even O.J. Simpson made an appearance in this movie long before he was famously associated with a murder case in the mid-1990s. This film tells the story of a fire that breaks out in a state-of-the-art San Francisco high-rise building during the opening ceremony, which had a host of A-list guests. A fire chief and the building's architect have to cooperate in the struggle to save lives and subdue panic while the corrupt cost-cutting contractor tries to evade responsibility for the disaster. There were several disaster movies that were popular throughout the decade, and some other ones worth mentioning are The Poseidon Adventure, Airport, and Earthquake. The Getaway is a 1972 film starring Steve McQueen, Ben Johnson, and Sally Struthers, just to name a few. The film tells the story about an ex-con who was recently released from prison in Texas. He does one last bank heist, and he and his wife set off for Mexico while running from the law and other criminals. It is the type of movie that captures you and doesn't let you go until the very end. Shaft has seen quite a few reboots and sequels over the last 50 years, but the original 1971 film is by far the best one. Robert Roundtree plays a suave black detective who is first against Bumpy, the leader of the black crime mob, and then he goes against the Black Nationals. He eventually works with both against the white mafia, who are trying to blackmail Bumpy by kidnapping his daughter. If you want cool, then this is the one. You dig? Get Carter is a 1971 movie that is about Jack Carter, played by Michael Caine, and he is a cold-blooded London gangster that is not the kind of man you want to run into. When Carter's brother winds up dead, he travels to Newcastle to arrange the funeral. He is convinced that his brother was murdered, and he questions a local thug who leads him to the kingpin Kinnear. From there, Carter goes on a bloody trail of revenge in search of his brother's killer. This movie shifts from calm moments to violence and is definitely going to keep you on the edge of your seat. The 1970s saw 5 major films from the martial artist Bruce Lee. They were The Big Boss, Fist of Fury, The Way of the Dragon, Enter the Dragon, and Game of Death. Enter the Dragon came out in 1973, and it might very well be his best one. In this movie, Bruce is determined to help capture the narcotics dealer whose gang was responsible for the death of his sister. Lee enters a kung fu competition in an attempt to fight his way to the dealer's headquarters with the help of some friends. The fight scenes in this movie are well choreographed and quite brilliant. The 1960s introduced us to James Bond, the cool 007 agent who was always needed for his expertise in combat and espionage. The 1970s carried on this action series with Sean Connery starring in one movie, Diamonds Are Forever, in 1971. Roger Moore went on to star as James Bond in 4 more movies: Live and Let Die, Man with the Golden Gun, The Spy Who Loved Me, and Moonraker. The Spy Who Loved Me was a 1977 film where Bond investigates the hijacking of British and Russian submarines carrying nuclear warheads with the help of a KGB agent whose lover he killed. Any one of these movies is good, but this one might be the best of the 007 movies in the 1970s. Death Wish, starring Charles Bronson, is a 1974 movie that sort of upped the criteria for what an action movie is. Bronson plays a once mild-mannered liberal architect from New York that snaps when intruders break into his home, murder his wife, and violently rape his daughter. A business trip to Tucson, Arizona lands him a gift from a client, a revolver that he uses to patrol the streets when he returns home. Bronson is frustrated that police cannot find the intruders, so he becomes a vigilante that guns down any criminal that gets in his path. The public around him sees him as heroic. Dirty Harry was a 1971 film that starred Clint Eastwood as Inspector Harry Callahan, who earned the moniker Dirty Harry for his reputation of handling the dirtiest of homicidal cases. The movie is set in San Francisco, and the Bay is facing the terror of a serial killer known as Scorpio, who snipes at innocent victims and demands ransom through notes left at the scene of the crime. Callahan is assigned to the case to track Scorpio down and stop him. The two sort of play this cat and mouse type of game, and Scorpio is put to the test by a cop with a very dirty attitude. This has to be one of the greatest action movies of all time. Mad Max is a 1979 film that starred Mel Gibson, who is an officer with the Main Forces Patrol in Australia. The movie takes place in a not-too-distant dystopian future when man's most precious resource, oil, has been depleted and the world plunged into war, famine, and financial chaos. Gibson launches a personal vendetta against a vicious biker gang when his wife and son are hunted down and killed. Now he has nothing but instincts for survival and retribution. This movie was different, and several sequels and remakes have spun off from it. Perhaps the greatest action movie of the 1970s was none other than The French Connection, which came out in 1971 and starred Gene Hackman and Roy Scheider. The film was based on a true story covering the real-life investigation of NYPD detectives Ethan Egan and Sonny Grosso into a large-scale heroin smuggling ring known as the French Connection. The movie depicts the detectives intercepting the shipment of French heroin into New York City. This movie was action-packed, and it has the greatest car chase scene in cinematic history. The film itself won several awards, including Best Actor, Best Picture, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Film Editing. If you have not seen this movie and you are into action films, then I don't know where you've been. It is certainly a must-see. There are a whole slew of other action movies from the 1970s that we did not cover. Many of them are certainly worth talking about. What are some of your favorites from the 1970s? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.